right. Good evening. It is what the hell time is it? 5:16 on the West Coast, 8:16 on the East Coast, 7:16 in Collin County, Texas. There is a verdict. We don't have it yet. 6 minutes ago, we got received an update 7 minutes ago now that the jury says they have reached a verdict in the sentencing for Karmelo Anthony. For those of you who haven't been aware of what happened here, he was found guilty of murder. There was a special question sent back to the jury as to whether or not this could occurred under a sudden passion type argument that would allow a jury actually to believe that if he was in such a emotionally unstable position and had no time to cool off, that they could actually reduce it down to a second degree felony. And instead of looking at 5 to 99 years, would be looking at 2 to 20 years. Both sides made arguments, not spectacularly like a bunch of fireworks in the arguments or anything like that. They're very thoughtful, subdued arguments on both sides, and it went back to the jury. The jury was out a couple hours on this, it looks like. So that's where we are at right now. It is 5:17 here on the West Coast, 8:17. Let us know where you're checking in from. Let us know where you are checking in from. I'm going to open up a couple of other windows here to see if, in fact, there's a certain platform that oftentimes we get information on quite rapidly. So I'm going to check that out. I will say that some of the stuff kicking around on X, some of the reaction to the verdict, regrettable. Let's just leave it that way. All right, so we're 8 minutes now from the time that we've had it. For those of you excuse me, who don't understand how things work there in the state of Texas. And I'm doing a little of this on the fly, but Carmelo was found, Mr. Anthony was found guilty of the murder as charged. However, in Texas, there is a procedural rule where the defense can then argue that it happened in a moment of sudden passion. The prosecutor could have objected to that. Then I think they probably would have had a Donnybrook between the defense counsel and prosecutor, oral arguments, legal arguments as to why it should or should not come in. Prosecutor agreed to it. Okay. Don't know if that was a gentleman's agreement, part of an agreement between the part. I don't know. I don't care. That's just what happened. Okay. Then there were arguments from both sides. I think each side got about 20 minutes aside, as near as I could tell, but I wasn't there. And the arguments, as reported by WDFW or K, what the hell is it? It's actually NBC DFW, Channel 5 in Dallas. I've been doing ads for them all day. They actually had reported that as to what the arguments were. I think I was getting excerpts of the argument, but there wasn't a lot of vehement arguments from either side. The jury took the case. They've been deliberating for a couple of hours. Apparently, they have reached a verdict. So, in the next few minutes, while we're doing this live podcast, our fourth of the day, plus I just did a pre-recorded interview, but we are actually going to get the verdict as soon as it comes in. We are going to get the verdict. We're going to let you know. Interested to know what you guys think the number is going to be. Let's put it down there in the description box. Tell us what you think. Are they going to find that the crime is sudden passion? Yes or no? And then what is your sentence going to be? Now, for those of you who want to tell me that the kid deserves the death penalty, you are absolutely entitled to that opinion. However, that is not on the table, so that is not one of the possibilities here. So, just that's not in play. Okay. We don't have any other updates at this point, so we're just going to keep waiting. Now, some of you may have had questions about appeals. There will be an appeal. There absolutely positively will be an appeal. What the jury does here, I don't even know if it's appealable because it's going to be within the confines of Texas law. I don't know what there will be to appeal here. You don't like it. If we could appeal verdicts that we don't like, there would be a lot. The appellate courts would be even busier than they are. So no, you actually have to have some legal deficiency in the trial record, something that the defense attorneys or appellate attorneys could argue precluded him from a fair trial, unfairly prejudiced him in some fashion. You do see criminal cases get flipped on appeal. You normally don't get them flipped on appeal on a 4-day trial, 3-day trial. You might see it on a 2-month trial where there's a whole ton of evidence coming in and all sorts of stuff that's being argued about. And by the way, only defendants found guilty can appeal. If a prosecutor in the United States loses a case, jury finds them not guilty, they don't get to appeal that. Okay. And everyone goes, really? I was like, did you ever hear of the appeal of the people of the state of California against OJ Simpson? Because that one would have been appealed, but it wasn't. So, all right, I'll give you an idea what some people are saying here. He'll have to serve at least half of his life in sentence to be eligible. Okay, I get that. No passion, 30 to 40 years. Uh, show a couple of these for you. Batwing 6, cool name. My money is on 30 to 40. Probably not totally out of it. I do want you to know that there is a possibility legal possibility he gets as little as 2. I'm not saying that's probable. I'm certainly not predicting that at all. The probability of which, obviously, had the prosecutor not agreed to allow the sudden passion defense to go to the jury and the judge had ruled in favor of the prosecution, then the chance of him getting as little as 2 years was 0 at that point. It would have been mathematically, legally impossible. Now it is at least legally possible for the jury to go that low. And you don't know the makeup of the jury here. And so we just don't know we're going to find out in a few minutes. So, and then the appeals will happen. He's already been remanded into custody. Carmelo has already been remanded into custody. The bond on him has been what they call in Texas extinguished, which means no matter what happens here in the next few minutes, he is going to be remanded into the Collin County Jail tonight, and then he will be transported to whatever state penitentiary he will be doing his time in. 15 to 20. If he gets below 30, that would be a shame. Metcalf lost his life. Below 30 is a slap in the face. All right. I'm not gonna disagree with that. I understand where a lot of you are coming from. If he gets below this is what happens. Here we go. Let's try this one here. Here we go. 15 to 20. He's young and oppressed, so the jury will go easy on him. All right. Well, um, again, I will tell you that a lot of the comments I'm getting, and they come in so rapidly, it's kind of hard to get them up on the screen. But no, you guys clearly are geeking out on this stuff, and I think there's a lot of well thought out comments on this. So we are going to find out here shortly. We're 13 minutes since they decided. Typically, here's what the delay is. Here's what the delay is, especially if defense counsel is sometimes depending on the courthouse and the hour of the day. Uh, case goes to the jury, and now the prosecutor is going to be like, well, I'm not going to sit around at the courthouse. So they go back to their office, or they go out and get a cup of coffee or get a bite to eat because they haven't eaten all day. And defense counsel has gone back to his office, and maybe they got media obligations that they're trying to figure out who are we going to talk to tonight or tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you get a call from the court. Okay, the jury's reached a verdict. And now you got to get your ass back to the courthouse. Okay. Now, I don't know. Maybe the prosecutor has an office right there in the building and he's sitting there waiting. There's been times where I've been miles and miles away from the courthouse and I get the call from the clerk like, jury's reached a verdict. And you got to stop what you're doing, get your ass back to the courthouse and take the verdict. There could be issues with where Carmelo's being housed currently and where his attorneys are and the armed escorts necessary to do it. So there could be lots of reasons for the delay. If, in fact, the verdict has been read and we don't know about it, I'd be interested in knowing if anyone else has information, but I don't see anything on the platform that I would expect to see the information come out instantaneously. One reporter is saying that at least one person has been arrested outside the Collin County Courthouse. Apparently is not a Karmelo Anthony supporter. There's nobody that should be getting arrested outside the courthouse, period. There's just no reason. But we'll see what happens. Okay. This is a sentiment I'm going to get from a lot of you here, and I'm not singling out Edward Stillwell 9252 here. I hope he gets life, but I'm thinking because of age 15 to 50. I see a lot of comments like that. I hope he gets life. He deserves life and things like that. And I'm not going to nitpick those arguments. What I'd like to hear from some of you, again, because this is all an open exchange of ideas. Let's talk about stuff. But let's always be grounded in reason here. Okay, so yeah, emotionally, I can understand. Just like the people are screaming, he should get the death penalty. Okay, that is in many ways that's an emotional reaction which you're entitled to have. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to get into your brain for a little bit, and I want you to tell me why you believe he deserves life. I'm not suggesting you're wrong. I'm not. Okay. I'm asking you, think it through and tell us why. It's going to make for a really good discussion. and I want all of you to participate in it. So that's the thing. Let me show you a different thing. Yeah, this is, I think, a sentiment from Melody Nicole, 7292. Thank you, Melody. I don't think life. Okay. I hope he learns to do better. He's young. And I think that there's some legitimacy behind that statement as well. What he did was horrific. It is a horrible crime. He took a life. He took a young life. It is as horrible as it possibly gets, and absolutely that it deserves to be swift and harsh punishment. I agree with all of that. Can swift and harsh punishment involve something less than life in prison? I think it can. We are 17 minutes out since they made the announcement that the jury has reached a verdict. We do not have any information. I will tell you that this website has done a pretty good job of actually staying up to date. I'm checking my other platform to see if anything has happened here. I am seeing a lot of interesting tweets related to it. Do we call them tweets anymore? Are they X's? What are they, posts? Anyways, all right. All right. Brian Flanagan, not singling you out. I'm using you as an example of a very common sentiment here. Okay. So, Brian, I want you to know that what you're feeling and expressing is not, you're not alone here. Okay. And so there's some legitimacy to this point because he took a life, and that he absolutely is. And there are some people who believe that, it's the eye for an eye for an eye and all of that. And so if you take a life, you lose a life. And can't, because death penalty was not on here, what he is saying. And this is, again, I'm paraphrasing, but it makes sense to a lot of people. Is hey, listen, he took a life. You're going to lose your life. We can't take it from you because death penalty was in place. We're just going to have you spend the rest of it behind bars, and the only way you come out of there is come out of there in a box. And that I think that's the penalty that's going to be handed down here. No, I don't. I don't. Not going to get into the reasons why. I just don't think it's going to happen. Um, I think that there are some things that this kid could have done and his defensive team could have done that might have been bold moves that could have backfired on him. It could have maybe made that a more plausible argument. I think the defense attorney was wise in not doing certain things. I think a lot of things that he's being second guessed. Why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do this? A lot of it was he just couldn't. It was just not going to work. Let me just double check it again to see if we got anything. So we don't. I'm assuming, obviously, at this point, they are gonna announce the verdict tonight because it is 7:30 back there in Texas, and the jury has an opportunity to be excused and go home. So that would be important because at the end of the day, if you're sequestering them again, well, they wouldn't need to be sequestered to announce a verdict tomorrow. But if they did, you're wasting all that money on the expense of sequestering. So you're going to do this again. I'm just going to show you what some people are saying. I got to be careful here. Some of them. All right, California here. Well, yeah, in California, if you got 25, you get about 15-ish to served. In Washington State, you do 2/3. So if you're doing a 30-year sentence, you're serving 20. That's the way, with good time. You got to actually behave yourself while you're there. I don't know if Texas has anything like that. If ever there was a state that would not have something like that, it would probably be Texas. So, anyways, all right. Here's the sentiment. He used the weapon, escalating from physical contact to lethal force, the threshold of a conscious status quo to an ultimate, I think he meant ultimate death, is one of character, not passion. Mike, good comments. Not going to disagree with you at all. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. This is why I'm actually fascinated to hear what you all think. And I do have, I will, I'm going to write it down here right now. I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper so you know that I'm not full of shit later on when it happens. I'm writing it down and I'll show it to you. I have a number that I just wrote down that I would have sentenced the kid to. So if you see me writing later on, you're going to know that I'm cheating you, but I won't do that. I will actually write the number down and then we'll see how close I was. I think my number is going to be higher than what he gets, and I also think it's going to be lower than what a lot of you think he ought to get. That's my little hint I'm going to give you. Okay, two fat guys tactical. Number one, best name of the day. Absolutely best name of the day. So congratulations on that. Carmelo Anthony sat in the opposing team area looking to provoke a fight. He was looking to stab someone, premeditated murder for a frivolous reason would seem to be justification for life in prison. Solid argument. Solid argument. Uh, so I really appreciate that. Clarence Corbett, thank you very much. That was very nice of you. I appreciate that. Thanks for everyone down there in Dallas. Let me just get down here to some of the more. Uh, okay. This is, I believe, a very valid point by Og Scrappy Dog. OG Scrappy Dog? Yeah, we'll go OG Scrappy Dog. You're the original OG Scrappy Dog. Okay. This is true. And this is what happens when you add the human element that inescapably comes with jurors because they are human beings and they are normal human beings. They're normal Americans. These were people who were plucked from their communities to serve on this jury. None of them wanted to be here, but they are human beings and they observe things around them and they have human connection to other human beings and human experiences. And yes, with his age, compassion for his youth is going to be held in consideration. I think that is an excellent point. I will be honest with you, when I was writing the number down on the piece of paper, what OG Scrappy Dog said is exactly what was also playing on in the back of my mind. Now, I also have spent a lot of time in my life in a court and I've seen how judges work. And not all of them work the way I'd like them to, but in general, I get where they're coming from. And so I tried to apply a little bit of that logic to it. I really did. 22 minutes out. We still don't have anything. I mean, come on, let's go. Let's get this thing. Here's the other thing. The families, the Metcalf family could have gone away for a while. The Anthony family could be away for a while. So they do wait for everybody who needs to be there to be assembled in the courtroom before they actually read the verdict. I don't know in this jurisdiction whether a juror foreperson reads the entire verdict or whether the paperwork is handed by bailiff up to the judge and the judge reads it. Um, in my counties, it depends on the judge. It depends on the judge. Even if the foreperson is going to read it, though, it always goes up through the bailiff to the judge. The judge gets to take a peek. They got to poker face it, right? And then they'll hand it back to the bailiff. The bailiff will take it back to the foreperson who will stand up and then read the verdict. And those are two convict instructions. And those are basically the actual verdict form, which is we, the jury, find the defendant, Carmelo Anthony, blah, 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 blah. Remember, they've already rendered a verdict as to guilt or innocence. So that verdict has been rendered. He is guilty. He is guilty of murder. Is it a first-degree murder? Is it a second-degree murder? That's what the jury is deciding right now. Is it sudden passion or is it not? If it's sudden passion, they can go as low as 2. They can go no more than 20. If there's no sudden passion, they can go as low as 5. They can go as high as 99. That's what we're waiting to hear. That's what we're talking about here tonight, and we'll see what happens. Okay, let's take a look. Here we go. Woo! Brutal Hearts playlist 7182. He's stating that sentence just announced. The jury in the Carmelo Anthony sentence has returned with a sentence of 35 years. Let's see if we got a new update. Let's see what it has. There it is. Jury sentences Carmelo Anthony to 35 years in prison. At 7:30, the jury returned a verdict to the courtroom and delivered the sentence to the judge. The judge asked Carmelo Anthony to rise, and his attorney Mike Howard put his hands on his shoulder. Judge John Roach then read the jury's verdict that he did not cause Austin Metcalf's death under sudden passion and sentenced him to 35 years in state prison. Anthony will have to serve at least half the sentence before he is eligible for parole. So he's got 17 and a half to serve before he's eligible for parole. Doesn't mean he's coming out on parole. It just means he can actually apply for parole. Moments before the jury delivered the sentence, Carmelo Anthony was in the courtroom with his head down. He appeared to be sobbing and was being comforted by a female attorney on his defense team. So there you have it, folks. 35 years. Brutal Hearts playlist. Great name. You're the winner tonight. You got it right. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for doing that. Here's the number I wrote down. All right. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it. Yeah, there it is. I wrote down 25 years. I wrote down 25 years. That's what I thought he was going to get. I thought that his youth would be taken into consideration. It may have. It just may have not played as big a role with those jurors, and that is fine. They have followed the law as instructed to them by the judge, and they have carried out justice in, I think, a very appropriate fashion in the sense that they clearly considered the evidence. They carefully weighed the evidence. I think they came to a just verdict. I think many of you, and I'd love to hear from what you guys are thinking right now, 35 years, too much, not enough. What do y'all think? Because it is 35 years. He will serve 17 and a half of them at a minimum before he's even eligible for parole. That does not mean he gets released on parole at that time. It just means the first time he gets to apply to the parole board. 35 years for Karmelo Anthony. He has already been remanded into custody. He will begin serving that sentence immediately. He actually has already been serving it for a few hours today already since he was remanded into custody. And hopefully, that is the last of this case. And what I mean by that is I don't want to be doing a video tomorrow where it's like how to survive accidentally driving into an angry mob. I've done videos like that before, and there is absolutely no reason for any violence to occur from either side tonight. This case is all about preventable, unnecessary, horrific violence. One young man is gone forever. Families deprived of all of that. Another young man has completely ruined his life and will be spending the next 35 years in a Texas state penitentiary as a young guy. It's going to be a rough go for him. But he has nobody to blame but himself. Ultimately, this is kind of my closing thoughts on here. Well, I'm going to take a look at a few things when yeah, don't cry when you're being held accountable for your decisions. Easier said than done. We got a comment here, and I'm seeing a lot of this from Juan there. 35 was not enough. A lot of you. So here's the one thing I want all of you to take away from this is that first of all, there has never ever 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 been a verdict in the history of American jurisprudence that every single person is satisfied with. This doesn't work that way. Some verdicts, there is much larger consensus or agreement about it, and others there isn't. What I wanted you guys to really see here, hopefully, and I think you have, is that despite the fact that there's a lot of people who want to claim that there's a lot of factors that go into a case like this, and that there's all these biases and all of these other things that go into it. At the end of the day, at least in this trial, on this trial record, as we watched it go through the system, the jury relied upon the evidence, and the jury applied the law to the evidence. The judge did a fantastic job of trying this case in a very efficient, streamlined fashion. I have no reason to doubt that the jury didn't absolutely positively do their job. They had some very difficult decisions to make. I don't think it was a very difficult decision as far as the guilt or innocence. I don't think that was a difficult decision at all. But when you're sitting there now with a young man's life in your hands and you just don't know the emotional makeup, the chronological makeup of the jury and things like that, all the types of things that they may or may not connect to, you never know. And they handed out a sentence that it could have been anywhere from 5 to 99, and it was 35 years. And an 18-year-old kid is going to spend at least the next 17 and a half years in prison, which means he's going to be 35 before he gets out. And I know some of you are not satisfied with that, and I appreciate where you're coming from. And you know what? You may be right. But there is nothing else that we could have ever done about it. There's nothing else we're going to be able to do about it. I applaud everyone who's been willing to have an intellectual discussion about this, and I hope that in the course of these live streams, you guys have been able to learn a little bit about how the court system works, specifically jury trials. It's not always pretty in the criminal justice system. You know, if you like sausage, don't watch it get made. Uh, but it is really nice to see sometimes it work. And sentence aside, I believe that the criminal justice system in Collin County, Texas, worked exceptionally well in this instance. And I think everybody should be commended for that. And I just hope that that community can start finding some healing and start piecing its back together. And I hope things don't get worse tonight. So For all of you who support this verdict, you are entitled to support this verdict. Let's just do it with class and dignity. And for those of you who are against this verdict, you have the right to do so. But what you don't have the right to do is be violent in your opposition of the verdict. So I want to thank all of you for tuning in. I especially want to thank some of you because literally you guys were here for every one of these live things today. I appreciate you geeking out. I'm going to throw up one other question here. What's an example of sudden passion? Great question, Reggie Silver. I like that. Okay, let's talk about it. Here is it. I'll give you an example that we use in law school. You come home early from work and some dude is in bed with your wife and you flip out and you shoot the son of a bitch. Okay? Is that a murder? Yes, it is. Do you get to claim sudden passion? That is literally a classic example of sudden passion. Okay. Might have been a more plausible argument if the defense had ever been able to elicit evidence that might have come out using racial slurs and things like that. The problem is no evidence came out like that because, well, it never occurred. That's why. Might have been able to make again. You guys don't have to think that, oh, it's a good argument. That's fine. I'm just saying what are plausible arguments. But that to me, that's a great question. I appreciate you thinking it. That is the classic example of when I'm trying to teach young law students in the criminal law and criminal process, that kind of stuff. Another one, real quick. Can the victim's family file a civil lawsuit for money? Yes, they can. It's wrongful death. They can do so. They may even be able to sue the immediate family, not just Mr. Anthony. The question remains, are they judgment proof? I know there was at least allegations and well, substantiated allegations that about $600,000 was raised through Give, Send, Go. There's also allegations that come along with that, but they ended up hiring a public defender. That is not true. The defense attorney here is a privately employed, well-recognized, well-versed attorney that I'm sure had a very hefty price tag for this type of case. So how much of that $600,000 is left over? That's for the plaintiff's lawyer to find out. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you're new to Washington gun law and you're passionate about your Second Amendment rights, or you want to learn about the laws of self-defense, and at the end of the day, the laws of self-defense are not the laws of self-defense. I think we cheapen that. I think we cheapen everything when we talk about the Second Amendment as the right to keep and bear arms and the laws of self-defense. I think they all are encapsulated in actually what is truly the right that's been given to us by our Creator, and that's the right of self-preservation. And we all, as Americans, have that inalienable God-given right of self-preservation. That's what the right of self-defense is. The right to keep and bear arms is a component thereof. That's what we preach at Washington Gun Law. We talk about litigation. We talk about legislation. We don't tell you how to think, but we give you all the stuff to think about. So if you're new and you want to keep geeking out with us, that's what we do. Everyone have a great night, especially for those of you back on the East Coast. It's getting a little late. I'm going to go catch the last few innings of the Mariner game. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. You guys have a great night. Stay safe. Final word, 35 years for Karmelo Anthony. No crime of sudden passion. He will start serving that sentence immediately. Thanks for tuning in. We'll do this again the next time we got a high-profile case like this. Hopefully that's a while from now, though, because as fun as this was, at the end of the day, it takes something really horrible to happen before we get an opportunity to do this, and I'd rather do material on other stuff. So have a good night, everyone. You take care and you stay safe.